Welcome to Hope on Fire, relevant talk radio for young adults. Whether you're 25 or 45, there's bound to be a discussion that you care about. Our mission is to share practical ways to find God in your everyday life. Our host today is Sabine Vatel.
Many of us at some point of our life's journey question whether or not we're living out our purpose. You may have found yourself wishing that your job was more than just a paycheck. Are you wondering today, what is my passion? Maybe you or someone you know feels that something is missing from work life and wonder, what am I really here for? Welcome to Hope on Fire. I'm your Sabine Vatel, your host for today, as we talk about finding your true vocation. A recent Time magazine article coined the word twixter to describe 18 to 29-year-olds who have mostly graduated from college and find themselves adrift in their parents' home. Now, those twixters are not the only one who are restless and searching. A large number of you out there, 35 to 44-year-olds, are reporting an increased level of job dissatisfaction. If you're struggling to find your place in the world, you are not alone. And I'm not alone today in this program. I have some fantastic people to help out in our discussion today. And the first person I want to introduce to you today is no stranger to you if you've heard our previous broadcast, and that's Chris Lang, good friend of mine and a very multi-talented guy. And I'm really glad you're here, Chris.
Thank you, Sabine.
And,
it's good to be here today.
Yeah, I know you'll have a lot to contribute and a lot of insights on the vocational journey.
It's an exciting topic.
It is. And also we have another fantastic person and also another brother in so many ways. And his name is Javier Moore, a very versatile guy. And he happens to be a contributing editor for Personal Life and Devotion. Thank you for being here, Javier.
Thank you for having me,
so glad
Sabine.
you could be here.
Thank you, Chris.
You guys, I'm so excited about this topic. As you said, it's an exciting topic, Chris, about the vocational life. Because a lot of you guys out there are going to relate to what we're saying today. So let's get into it. Yeah. So when we talk about vocation, so a lot of people are dissatisfied with their job, and they're wanting to do more than just clock in, clock out. They're looking for meaning, and it's a new trend actually, not just in religious circles. And well, how you guys would explain that kind of trend that we're seeing?
Javier?
Well, I believe that that's the new generation or Generation X that is coming about with looking for different avenues than what my parents have taught us. You know, we're not your traditional group that accepts the life the way it is, the norm.
Right.
Exactly.
We want more out of life.
We want more out of life, you know, and we expect more out of life. And,
right.
But we're finding that it's not as easy as it seems.
No.
You know, but a lot of times it's not us; it's just society in itself that is taking us out of our traditional norm of what we want to go to. You know?
Well, and I think that's an interesting point, Javier. Young adults today, I think, are asking the question, why? You know, when my parents were young adults and coming up through college and starting their careers, work life was kind of the norm as far as the priorities in their households. But I think today the young adults and a lot of the data is bearing out that they're asking the questions. Why are we doing what we're doing? They're going to their employers and they're saying, I want flexible work time for my family. I want alternative shifts or work from home arrangements, even if getting them means they take pay cuts. So this is a new generation, as you said.
A new set of values we're talking about here.
That's right.
A new set of values, and they're searching for more. Indeed. So maybe it's not such a bad sign that people are searching for meaning. And as we explore this theme of vocation, we want the people listening to us to find new hope and to find that, again, that they're not alone, and maybe they'll find some encouragement for their journey as well, too. Now, this thing of career and vocation, you know, we use it interchangeably. And, of course, there's a different meaning to it. A career kind of changes shape, you know, and vocation is something that kind of follows you your whole lifetime.
I agree.
You know, right?
I look at it as a career, something that you do or you go into as something to take care of your life situations, you know, and a vocation is something that I think is bred in you, that maybe it's a God-willing talent that He's given you for you to pursue.
Well, and I think I agree with you, Javier, and I think that's a cry of a lot of young adults today is, how do I find where my talents I've been given by God fit in the way that I make my living, in the way that I interact at church, with my friendships, with the corporate worship life in general. It goes way beyond just your work life these days. And I think young adults are really wanting to find out, how can I put it all together? And maybe maybe this is the first generation that now is finding enough tools to maybe start figuring some of this out. And we'll talk more about that later.
Sure. And are we being realistic when we say that? Is it possible to spend your life, get paid for something that you actually are passionate about? I mean, some people are doing it.
Right.
But is it too much to ask and expect that it'd be a realistic thing to be paid for something you're passionate about?
I think it is. I mean, I think it's possible. Like you said, there are people doing it, you know. It's just that you have to pray about it and go with it, you know, and don't expect
take a risk, jump.
There you go. Sometimes you have to do that, you know, and if it's God's calling for you, He will put you in that direction. And hey, it's a blessing if you can get paid to do what you love, and a blessing to others.
Well, Javier, is that, you know, sometimes mutually exclusive, though, to do what you love and make a lot of money at the same time? When you think vocation, you think poor?
No, you know, that's a good question that you asked, because I know of a friend, dentist, who took 2 years. He closed his practice, his dentistry practice, for 2 years and went to South America into the jungles to preach the word to the people. But at the same time, he used his practice to help people and give them dentistry, you know, fix their teeth and things like that.
Okay.
So could you imagine being able to do God's will and at the same time be able to use what He's given you, your talents, to help others?
Well, and I think that's an interesting point, Javier, Sabine. You know, I think too often people look at someone else and assume, wow, I wish I had those talents. That whether, for example, we might look at our minister at church, or we might look at a doctor and say, wow, they're saving lives. And not see that maybe my administrative skills are a talent that God needs in His body. And that's an interesting point, is that God gives each one talents that glorify Him. And too often I think we look over the fence and we say, wow, I wish I had something more of that.
And sometimes it doesn't have to be as, maybe it's not glamorous to quit and go, you know, serve in another country.
I mean, I'm just saying that.
Right, but it's a good point that he found a way to use his education and skills and to help other people. But it's sometimes not a matter of quitting what you're doing, but doing what you do and what you're called to do on a day-to-day basis, and doing it for the glory of God. And I want to go back, Chris, to what you were saying in terms of using one talent. Now, you've heard me use this definition. You're probably sick of me using this definition over and over again. Frederick Buechner, I love this definition. And it says that the place where your deep gladness meets the world's great need. That's how he defines vocation. I think that's so deep.
Excellent.
And I just want to get your input on that. Is it possible to find your deep gladness intersect with the world's greatest need? Isn't that awesome?
I think it's beautiful, because the truth is when we're in that zone, as some people refer to it, the sense that you are in that place where you feel fully alive. Because one of the reasons that we're given our talents is to, maybe the primary reason is to edify the body of Christ.
Sure, that's what the word says.
And so if and we'll talk more about getting feedback from others later, but that sense that in fact, if you're meeting a need and you're getting joy at the same time, how much greater of a reason for living could you have?
That's right. It's a great way
to give you joy.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, I want to say that you know, the word vocation, it almost seems like an old-fashioned word, I guess, in many ways. But vocation comes from the word voice. You know, the call. And I think maybe some of the questions that people who are listening to us are wondering, well, how do you figure out what your vocation is? You know, I attended a seminar once with Lori Beth Jones. I think she wrote Jesus CEO. I don't know if you heard that book before. But one thing she pointed out is that sometimes we live out our parents' dream and we don't even realize it. It's not even our own dream. And all these voices calling out to us, how do you figure out, Javier or Chris, how do you discern which one is the way you ought to go?
With me, I think it's time.
Yeah, talk about yourself.
Yeah,
man.
with me, it's
different for different people.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
When I realized all these years and I look back, people have talked to me and have mentioned to me, I think you would be great in this area. Even though for me, I might not think I would be great.
Wait a minute, you're not talking about somebody like prophesying and saying, you know what, the Lord told me you ought
No,
to be a preacher.
no.
You're not talking about that? Are you okay?
No. Nothing like that. No, it's just the people that get to know you, your friends, and just people out in the world that say, you know, you would be great at this area, or you'd be great at this. And I think that God speaks to others to tell you what he feels that it would be a good thing for you. Now, it's up to us to continue in that road or to investigate that area or just be where you're at.
Right. How do you figure out the voices?
Well, I agree.
Your voices.
Your voices.
As long as you don't answer your own question.
That's what I
That
heard.
could be a problem.
That's another show for us.
But that's another program. But you make a good point, Javier. I mean, getting feedback from other believers, fellow believers, I think is critical. You know, people that really know you, and especially people that have known you for many years.
Correct.
They've seen the trends and the patterns in your life. And you know, I think it's interesting to point out that, again, some people might wish they were doing something else, like singing in church and doing a music ministry, because that's really ministry, when in fact they may be talented in other areas that may be more behind the scenes. And people may be talking more about those things. And so it's important that we not only take the feedback, but also praying about that and hopefully internalizing that so that we're not pushing for things that maybe we weren't wired to do.
Exactly. That's good, Chris.
And we're going to talk some more about how to discern that, how to kind of check our motivation, so to speak, and things like that. In terms of your personal search, in terms of where you are, you know, I don't know if you guys want to talk about that.
Well, a thought came to me as we were talking about this program the other day, and I think about being a young adult, and there's not a lot of self-assessment about where my life is going when you're a young adult, is there?
No.
There doesn't tend to be. I think you just want to go.
Exactly. Because you're kind of, climbing that hill to wherever it is we're going.
Right.
But at the end of life, if in the quietness, maybe it's at the end of the Sabbath when the sun's going down, whenever that quiet time is, nobody's going to sit at the end of their life and say, man, I wish I would have made another $1 million. Or, man, I wish I would have worked more time and opened more businesses. This idea that I want to make a difference and I want to be fed at the same time while I'm blessing others. And I think that self-assessment is so important to really separate the vocation from the career path. And if those things merge, praise God.
Then beautiful.
Exactly.
But they don't always do.
No. So how does one... then we have all kind of examples of what success is, and how does one discern what success is? And I think that's another thing that we're going to discuss. Any quick definition?
To me, success is individual. I mean, it's hard to find a definition for success in general, but success is something that you have to. I don't want to say money. I don't want to say fame. But I think success is when for me, is when I'm helping somebody else less fortunate, and I get joy. I feel I'm successful,
and that's good. We'll talk more about what success means, and more about also how do you find your true vocation. We're going to get more into the details of what that means. So come back and join us again on the other half of our program today. Welcome back, everyone. We're so glad you stayed tuned in to Hope on Fire. And I'm your host for today, Sabine Vatel, and I'm here with Chris Lang and Javier Moore as we talk about finding your true vocation. You know, we left off talking about definition of success, Javier, and I think you have to do a lot with service, which you were speaking about. And, as we talk about success and as we climb the social rank success ladder, we rarely pause to think about when it doesn't work out. I think we may have some anxieties about when it doesn't work out, but really when we fail, I think a lot of us don't expect to always fail. And it came as a surprise to me. And I think I want to talk to those who are listening to us and who may be facing a closed door and that disappointment of dashed dreams.
Yeah.
And what kind of encouragement you would give to somebody who's facing a closed door or disappointments in terms of their career or vocation.
Well, I think it's a very real. It's a story many people have that happens to many people, and certainly when we see a door closed, the tendency is to be depressed and say, God, why me?
Right.
I'm not going to be a success, and yet God may be equipping us. God may be teaching us in a space that we would never learn otherwise. I mean, you think about Moses. You think about the fact that he was a trained general in the land of Egypt, the #2 most powerful man in the country.
Right.
and he kills the Egyptian. He runs for 40 years. He's in the wilderness, and he's literally in boot camp. But he doesn't know that.
Right, he's keeping sheep, but it's a training ground.
He doesn't know that he needs to learn patience and humility and all of these things that he may have been short supply of before he left Egypt.
Sure. So you're saying that the disappointment that you're facing, the failure, is actually a time of preparation and kind of God is doing something.
Yeah,
in
God
the
is working.
right?
God is working on us, and we have to be patient about it, as Chris was saying, and let Him lead us. We're in a situation maybe that we may not like to be, but God is going to move us where He wants us to be.
Well, and again, I think it's important to try and think, if we're in a situation where we're unhappy, what is it that God, like you said, may be teaching me or equipping me for? And I can think of going through accounting classes in college and actually getting my CPA, and certainly so many quality skills that I learned in that process. It wasn't the road that I felt would be my long-term career thing, but yet it's helped me in so many ways as I've been able to start my own business several years ago, and a lot of those things have allowed me to be a volunteer on this program.
Sure.
And those are just blessings that we don't see when we're going through those, what I used to say, eating my lima beans.
I like lima beans.
Well, not every
I get your point. Yeah.
There may be a vegetable or fruit you're not particularly fond of.
We get the metaphor.
I usually say it's not my favorite. I don't say I hate it.
So you relate to this, Javier.
I truly do. I know that there's times where I've been where I felt that the Lord didn't want me there, but I thought should be there, and then things didn't work out. But maybe he puts us in a situation for us to meet other people, and to counsel those people, and then from there moves us somewhere else.
Yeah.
And we're thinking, oh well, I should be here. No, He knows where we need to be.
That's
but
right.
just let him guide us, and we'll get there.
And as we talked about that conversation, and God has a strange way sometimes of teaching us some lessons.
Yeah.
I told you guys this. I was at a kind of a, I think it was a low point in my life. It was a low point, and I think that it was one of those mornings where I got up and I had a long list of things to do, and one of those was laundry. And I was still sleepy, so I made my way to the garage and put my laundry on the machine and went back to go inside the house, and I locked myself inside the garage.
That's not good.
So it was as if one more thing could go wrong. It was one more inconvenience, and I had no clothes. I mean, I had some clothes on, but but not much. I had just woken up.
I'm really pleased you qualified.
I don't want to horrify people, or whatever. But so I threw on some clothes that was in the basket there. And I opened up the garage door and I looked around because I didn't want to be seen. I looked horrible, I thought I did anyway.
You?
So that's course point. So anyway, I ran across the street, and because the neighbor works night shift, so I figured, she could probably help me out. Nobody was home, and none of my neighbors were available, so I had to run back inside the garage and close the door. And here I was in the dark. And but I saw something on the floor. There was a piece of wood, and one of the side was flat. And I had heard that if you use like something flat, like a credit card, not like I'm recommending it to our listeners, but use a credit card, and it can kind of open up a locked door. This is a brand new door, mind you. It wasn't supposed to happen.
Right.
Anyhow, I'm trying to play with the side of the door, and nothing's working, and the light is flickering. It's getting darker and darker. And you know what? I stopped in frustration. I said, God, we've known each other for a long time, and this closed door is nothing to you. I tried one more time, not expecting that much to happen, but click, it opened, and the AC, hit my face. And at that moment, I guess you could call it an epiphany. And I ran to my room and knelt right then and there. Things were not working out in my life. But, it told me that God, whatever door was not opening in my life, He was able to handle it. And God has a plan for us. What, Javier?
Yes, He does.
He does. And whatever, closed door that our listeners are facing, may they be encouraged to know that God has a plan and He's able to open that door.
Well, I think it's important. That's a great story, Sabine. Personal testimonies are what Hope on Fire is built around. And that's just a great illustration. I think one of my favorite authors, Ellen White, says that we should do the work that lies nearest when we're in a corner and we don't know how to get out. That's sort of active waiting.
What does that mean?
doing the
Active
work
waiting.
that we're not just sitting there. You picked up a piece of wood and started.
Okay, yeah.
Instead of yelling and screaming.
You could have.
I wanted to.
In other words, you could have sat there and prayed and done nothing and sat in the
Yeah.
darkness and said, "Lord, you have angels, open the door for me, please." Right? That's my point, is that you actually were in the process of working, and as you were working, you prayed about it. Sometimes God wants to test us while we're in that place that we don't know how to get out of.
Right. And sometimes, testing, I don't always know the whole theology of what of testing, but certainly, and I don't know if you want to qualify that, but certainly testing in the sense that God is preparing you for the next level where He wants you to go.
I really believe God has 1,000 ways to bring us joy in our lives, to connect us with the path that He wants us to be on, that will maximize the blessings we can give others. Because let's face it, God's chosen to use people to further His plan in the world.
Exactly.
And if we're not connecting with the way we were wired, because you are the only one like you in the universe, Sabine.
Indeed, that's right. It can only be me.
Everyone may try to copy you, but
Go ahead and try.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Though. God has
Yeah.
a special plan, and that's what this program is about.
That's
It's so
right. And we want people
amazing.
to who are hearing us to be encouraged with that truth in a sense. Now, we heard of the example of Moses and how God led through his life, and he was eventually the one who took out the children of Israel into eventually out of their slavery. What about when you are keeping sheep somewhere and you're in a place where you don't want to be? Are there any advice you have for the listeners?
Well, I think it's important. In this day and age, we've never had more information about how we can assess how we're wired and what kind of careers that could help us get to a place that maybe isn't like herding sheep. I mean, let's face it, Moses went from being a number 2 guy in his country to doing the lowest level job there was to do that was known to man, at least from an Egyptian perspective.
Right, from an Egyptian perspective, it certainly was.
Yes, and his whole life changed because when that burning bush came to him, which, by the way, is the icon of Hope on Fire, the burning bush.
That's right. That's why we like the story of Moses.
He thought his life was over, and then to have God come to him after he finished his boot camp. He didn't know he was in boot camp.
That's right.
And I think today we have technology, we have tools that we can go to as we're praying, as we're getting feedback from people who know us. What do you see me doing? There's tools, and I just took one recently called livecareer.com. It's one of many out there.
And that's a free one, right?
It's free.
Something you found on the internet.
Takes about 20 minutes to do.
Did you take it too, Javier?
I was in the process.
Okay, all right. We have other stuff. If people don't want to do the internet thing.
Well, it's just really interesting because it gives you a free report of 13 pages, and it shows you what you score highly for and what you score low for, and then you can actually get a sense of where your strengths might be in terms of a career. So
That's good.
for those people who are feeling like they're feeding sheep and they feel like they should be somewhere else, there are tools that you can take.
What was that website again?
It's livecareer.com.
Yeah.
And there's actually a report you can buy that will actually have more resources and links that will drill down. And so you can buy books from Amazon.com that actually are specifically about a career that you score very high in.
Now, for those of us who are not really, too keen on going to the internet and putting in our information, although you don't have to put all your information, but some of us are not, in as much into that. Right. I guess I'm one of those. But that's a good resource. But there's also another one, kind of a more conventional one. It's called What Color is Your Parachute? I think it has many edition. And in it, it's a very involved test. It's like a form of a petal or a flower, basically. I guess it's the flower test. And it talks about your geographical preferences, your skills, your values. And you put all that together. And somehow at the end of this assessment, you figure out sort of where you belong. So that's one way. It's $20 though for a book. But it's another resource that people can use. Right?
Sure.
It's also, every most cities anyway, at least in North America, anywhere, they have nonprofit organizations,
career counseling
that people can go to and sort of help them. What did you say? Just sort of keep busy while you're waiting, active waiting.
Doing the work that lies nearest.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that, doing the work that lies nearest. And it may be searching and going to that adventure of searching what your work ought to be. In our website on hopeonfire.org, we even have an assessment for people. They can go into the website and sort of assess where they are. to assess how they're doing on Monday mornings.
Yeah.
And based on that assessment, right?
Your job satisfaction.
Right. The job satisfaction assessment, and it's time for a change at some point. And we talked about that burning bush and being aware and in tune to God's voice. And there's some steps here that I have, and you guys, I want to welcome your comments and wisdom on this. And this one is creating a space for quietness with God. Simple. We're so busy, we don't take time to just slow down and just a space. I know that I had to discover that I had to be still for a moment. Sometimes going back into your childhood and figure out what you used to, your favorite games, that's often an indication of how you were wired.
That's true.
Somebody's building model planes, or somebody's preaching to their kids in the yard, or whatever, right?
To your toys, or pretend you're doing
toys,
radio and all that. Yeah. Anyway, you guys, we really appreciated that. Appreciate both of you so much, and I thank you so much for being with us at Hope on Fire. Ultimately, vocation is your relationship with God in action. If you want to know how you are to be expressing His love to the world, go to Him today and trust that He has a future and a hope for you.
Hope on Fire is produced by Livestreams Media, a listener-supported ministry. To download a free copy of today's program or be a part of our social network, please visit our website at hopeonfire.org. You may also contact us by writing to Livestreams Media, P.O. Box 608513, Orlando, Florida 32860. Once again, that's Livestreams Media, P.O. Box 608513, Orlando, Florida 32860. Or online at hopeonfire.org. Thank you so much for your letters and continued support. Until next time, may God set your hope on fire.